Well, the Folk High School is an extraordinary educational program that developed in Denmark, totally outside the academic system, to bring cultural and social education to the young people who've left high school at a certain age. And young people in those days, not today, they would go to the Folk High School courses for wintertime when they weren't needed on the farms. They were farm young people. And then as the Danish Folk High School developed, young men said, well, we want our wives to have this background too. So then they developed a summer course for the women when the schools weren't needed by the men. And that program has spread all over Scandinavia. That's another story. I'll tell you more about it later if you like. Because it's an exciting story. It's my idea of peace building. And so anyway, I went up to the mountains of Oregon and I read about the Danish education, and it came clear to me that I was never going to understand it without going there. So I got myself a set of records of Danish course, and I played them and imitated them and played them and imitated them until I got a sore throat, because Dane has like
a German. Right.
The Swedes call it a throat disease.
Throat disease.
Anyway, I learned those records pretty good, so I could almost memorize them in my sleep. And when I got off the boat, well, I took a youth hostel ship to Europe.
Oh, interesting.
And that was an interesting experience, yeah. And in the Seeds of Servas, I write about seeing Southampton, England, which was bombed. And anyway, I got to Denmark, and I was too early for the folk high schools to start, so I hitchhiked. And I was hitchhiking in Norway, and this fellow picked me up, going north towards Trondheim. He says, I'm going up to Narvik. Why don't you come with me? Well, Narvik's 1,000 miles north of Oslo.
I see.
And I said, well, why not? So for 3 days we traveled, and it was in August, it was October, and it was drizzly and foggy and slushy snow. It wasn't a very exciting trip. And we went 2 or 3 days. Finally, I got up, he dropped me off, and then I took a coastal boat up to Narvik. There was no road. And that was this experience, that little boat that chugged into this fishing port, to that fishing port, to the next fishing port. And I'd get off the boat and I'd walk around the town, and the captain would blow the whistle, and I'd come running back and get on the boat and go on to the next place. And that was an adventure into rural life that I didn't have time to, and didn't spend enough time to understand better. Most of them were fishing villages. And then I got up to Narvik, and from there I took the train over the mountains. There's a train to Narvik because there's iron mines there.
I see.
So I took the train over the mountains from Narvik. The coast of Norway is much too rough to have a railroad, but they could go over the mountains into Sweden. And there I had the opportunity of visiting a school for Laplanders.
I see.
And what an experience. These young people with their colorful lap clothes they wear as a daily dress. And I learned from the teachers there about the suppression of the Laplanders by modern Sweden, which wasn't very happy.
How were they being suppressed?
Oh, it's just a modern society developing a commercial system that doesn't encompass their nomadic way of life. I couldn't give you details, and there was not intentional. But the Scandinavians, who I admire as being very broad-minded and very anti-racist, too many of them in Norway and Sweden looked down on the Lapps, which I thought was unfortunate. I guess that happens everywhere.
The same as U.S.-Indian policy too. This country has American-Indian policy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, similar.
Well, it wasn't as bad as the American-Indian policy,
Well,
I'm glad to
true,
say.
But
It was nowhere near as bad as that. For one thing, the Lapps are up there in the North Arctic, and nobody wants to take their land.
that's right. Nobody wants that kind of
It's
land.
not like the Indians that are on land that have oil or something under it.
Right.
Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I visited folk high schools in many parts of Norway. My Danish was good enough so that I could understand a bit of the Norwegian, and I could talk to the Finns who knew, and the Swedes. The Scandinavian languages are not that different, and so I could travel through the countries and talk with the people like most Americans who are scant.
That's interesting.
And I visited Swedish folk high schools, and folk high school became my end all and be all. And then I went to Finland and visited, they call it Kansanopisto. I'll never forget the school I visited there. It was up before the school opened, and the girls had been invited to come early to prepare the rooms for the boys, and those girls later.
I see.
The girls are the housekeepers.
Right.
And the teacher said to the girls, most of them who probably didn't even know each other, will each of you stand in front of us, tell us where you're from, and sing a song. And I was flabbergasted. They had no instrument, total a cappella. Those girls sang like canaries.
I see. Oh, that's interesting.
And from there, I could tell other stories about people, girls in trees in the border of Tibet singing also like canaries, and the girls in Morocco, the girl in Morocco who was in Berber village, grinding grain and singing like a canary. That's a perspective people don't get in school. What I saw was they didn't have electronic music in their ears, and they developed their own voice, and they expressed their own soul through their singing. It was so different, and we don't realize how we're suppressing our very creativity with our modern technology.